And Tiago, who was running with us this morning, is going to take on the role to moderating both of the sessions. First one is coming up now, then we have a break, then the other one is coming up right after that. So, Tiago, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Zoltan. I think you just ruined my introduction because I was about to say that. And I'm going to remove my jacket so I'm a bit more into an esports mood. Please come in. So we're going to have, with me on the panel, we're going to have Andre, Gal, Chris, and Christian. On the first part of the panel, there is. Because as Zoltan said, we're going to have two parts of the panel with a little bit of a break in between. So we're going to be discussing the rise of esports in Europe and also its global impact in the esports scene all over the world a little bit. We have 8 speakers, 4 now and 4 a little bit later as well. We're going to be touching a bit on legal topics as well as technology, and the panelists are going to contribute to clarify any of your questions that you may have. Feel free to interrupt, feel free to ask questions even during the panel. If you have a question about a certain topic, you're more than welcome to do so. And I would like to ask you to maybe introduce yourselves. We can start here. Thank you.
My name is Christian Rapani. I'm an attorney based in Austria. We have a boutique law firm with 4 lawyers in total, and 80% of our daily work is gaming related. My firm made it's called Rapani Open, a League of Legends tournament. We already did it 3 times now. It becomes more and more successful. Since 2020, we dedicate a lot of time and effort to the questions related to esports. And as you're perfectly aware, there's a lot of legal impact of this esports and a vast variety of legal questions linked to it.
Okay, thank you very much. Next to you we have Andre, right?
Yes. So my name is Andre Shelhavi. I'm a business developer at Value of V, which is an agency located in Berlin. We are focusing on esports, gaming, and Web3 activities and partnerships. I've spent the last 4 or 5 years in the esports betting ecosystem, so working with esports data, esports odds operators, sports books, and sponsorships. And in the last, let's say, year, I've been really focusing on a lot of the partnerships in the esports and betting ecosystem, so working on sponsorships, tournament partnerships, and that type of activations, basically.
Thank you. Actually, on your website, you say that you have 4,923 Jägermeister shots drunk quarterly. I think that's a little bit too much for your team, but I'll congratulate you to that.
That's a quota because Jägermeister is one of the clients that we are leading Web3 activities for, and of course,
so you have a sponsorship.
To be the experts, we have to try it.
Okay, cool. Then next to you we have Gal.
Good morning, everybody. I can't compete with Andre but drinking Jägermeister. My name is Gal Ehrlich. I'm the CEO of Better. Better is a content provider, content producer. We are producing sport and esport content, more than 40,000 of them every month, and we are helping the big names in the industry to produce more money, provide more excitement and engagement for the players. Prior to that, with some other betting companies, so in total like 14 years in the industry, so both B2B and B2C, so both sides.
Thank you. Chris.
Hello, my name is Chris Eveling. I am the Chief Creative Officer at Behavioral and also co-founder of Zrun. We focus on emerging entertainment using new technologies. So we're a tech company, but tech entertainment. With Zrun, it's a digital horse racing ecosystem built on blockchain using the Polygon network, where people buy and sell and race digital racehorses, venturing into the betting space as well. And with Behavioral, where I'm currently focused now, we are building smart AI avatars, which are play just like real world players, and also producing and bringing that into the betting space as well.
Perfect. Thank you very much for introducing yourselves. Let's try maybe with the first question a bit more generic. I would say that maybe Chris and Gal and Andre, this will be more of your field. I'll leave a few more legal questions to you later on. So with your backgrounds, do you think, I mean, touching on the different aspects of technology from AI to blockchain, to even the newest technology in betting, how do you see these technologies contributing for esports, in the future of esports and online gaming, and what are the challenges and even the opportunities that they present?
Yeah, I can maybe touch first on the esports and then I'll leave the gaming part. In esports, it's still a developing story because we are not yet at the point where we would be like, we would know, okay, this is what the technology brings, this is how we utilize it, and that's it. Everyone is still exploring different ways how to do it. And we have brands like DHL that are coming into the space and trying to understand, okay, how we can leverage the tech to engage the viewers, because especially they are focusing on the live events, so you have tens of thousands of people visiting the events live, and then how you can use it. You can, one example is converting tickets into NFTs, and then working with that customer base going forward. So you are forging a connection that previously you maybe didn't have because they just bought the ticket, went there, and that's it, and you never heard from them. So that's definitely one example. Second example is that in Counter-Strike, very well-known phenomenon is that you have a skin trading, which basically is a cosmetic thing in the game itself, where you can trade different skins of the weapons in the game between the players. And that's something that is working for many years. That's sort of centralized thing. But now with blockchain, you can do these things decentralized, and players can actually migrate these assets between them without really permission from anyone. So that's, I think, a big thing that will going forward in the new type of games. You will see this more and more developing because it definitely creates another form of engagement for the players.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really open-ended question. There's a lot to discuss. So yeah, on the blockchain aspect, we've been doing that for a good 5 years now and seen a lot of success. We were early in the bull market in 2017, 2018, and when we launched Zed Run, for example, which is a digital horse racing game, people, of course, came in. And the biggest concern is we're still early. Like, we're still a lot of education to be done in that space. But I definitely see the advantages and that emotional connection by owning these assets. You know, I have a 10-year-old son who plays Fortnite, and I've never used as much money in a game in my life as supporting his entertainment, and he doesn't own any of that, right? But if one of those rare skins was on blockchain from season 1, it would actually pertain value and give value and be an investment of sorts. The issue there is, of course, the entertainment versus investment factor, right? Like, are people coming to play your game for fun, which is what we're trying to do when we entertain people, or are they coming to own these assets and just hold them as a security, right, as an investment? And that's where we have to find that balance. Then to the AI point, which is another technology. So Zed Run is not using any AI. It's just skill-based simulation. You have a horse, you put in a race, you are the winner, you don't. There's probability factors and all that. But with Meta 11, which is our AI cricket game, these cricket players are actually learning in real time. It's not a simulation. When you watch these players play, they're adapting to each other's strategies in real time. So they'll play like real world players. And an analogy I use is, if you see, that's all right, if you see Roger Federer play against Djokovic for 10 games, you'll actually see them start strategizing and find each other's weak points. And we can see that with our avatars and these models that we've built, which is really, really exciting. On top of that, we can then also mimic that of real world players, bringing real data in, and these players will actually play like real cricketers. So there's an engagement level there where it brings fans even closer to their favorite players. You're able to mimic real life sports in the digital realm, where you can, of course, scale that infinitely, right? Instead of waiting for a real world game where the season comes to an end, we can play 100 or 1,000 cricket games a day. Like with Zed Run, there's 3,000 races a day of horse racing, right? In the real world, you have to wait every weekend, or you can go to 2. So again, there's an opportunity there, of course, as a business model. And then again, with the ownership piece, peer-to-peer trading, we of course facilitate that, and you take a percentage of the cut, just like when you trade or sell something on OpenSea, for example. So there's huge opportunity there. But there is that danger, again, of when it's fun or when does it become an investment, and do you then kill the fun? So finding that balance is still something we're trying to find.
Thank you. Okay. First of all, it's really an open-ended question, and I think that's quite good points were touched about the technologies. I would like maybe to focus a bit about the implementation of technology for the esport domain, because I see that a lot of the betting companies are still lagging behind. Many of them I see that when it comes to betting on esports, adopting the same traditional sport approach, taking the same tabular view that was designed decades ago for football and horse racing, and just take from there, I don't know, sport at their feet, some esport, put it there, and they put a view that they are esport compliant. Esport is a different audience and requires a different implementation of technology through the whole life cycle. Yeah? How do you acquire players? If somebody thinks that you can take a football player and convert it to bet on Dota 2, that's very unlikely. It's a different audience. You need to acquire them differently. Ask yourself how you sponsor esport events, how you advertise in esport events. And when it comes to technology, about the user experience, the player journey through that, it's a young generation, it's new generation that come from different ecosystem, and they are looking to have this experience with you when you're offering to bet. Think about your UI, think about your user experience, think about your engagement functions. It will make a major difference, and we see it from our customers, how big portion the esport takes from their revenues if they implement it properly, the technology, and how much is they are considered like any other traditional sport.
Thank you. So let's go into more specific questions then. This was an open question, more like an introduction to the topic. Christian, I'll start with you. What do you think are the most significant regulatory challenges these days for esports and on the online gaming industry in Austria and also in the EU?
Okay, so regulatory challenges, there are not that many, to be very honest. What needs to be, you need to know that there's no uniform definition of what sport is in Austrian law. So we have a similar discussion as in many states, also Germany, they have the same discussion, is esports to be seen as sport? Disqualification in the next step highly impacts on a lot of legal consequences, starting from tax law, labor law, many different areas of law, and also gaming and betting law. That's where it becomes especially interesting for our clients. Three Austrian, betting in Austria is regulated on a state level, so we have 9 different state betting laws, even though we only have 8 million of inhabitants. That's a lot of law. And 3 of the states exclusively regulate sports betting. 4 of these states regulate sports and social bets, and 2 of these states have a neutral definition and just say event. So apart from these 3 states that exclusively regulate sports betting, it's a quite open market where you could, together with the possibility to get a license for online gaming and online betting, you have a high degree of legal certainty if you want to offer betting on esports. So I think Austria would be a really, really interesting market. And what Gal just said before, we found out that, the esports customer and the classic betting customer are completely different persons, and that you cannot reach esports enthusiasts with the current sports betting offering. But having said that, there's one exception, it's FIFA. Because I heard from stakeholders that up to 1/3 of their football bets actually is on FIFA and not on real sport events. And it's also real sport events, but on esports FIFA tournaments, 1/3 of big betting operators. Now we talked about legal certainty, and now the hurdles. It's also a legal problem. Is linked to loot boxes that are embedded in several games. That's for politicians. They love to talk about this because they can regulate something, not understanding that loot boxes look completely different and work in completely different ways depending on the game you look at. There have been already some court decisions where the claimants proved or tried to prove, I think they are wrong, these decisions, but still they are there, where loot boxes were qualified as games of chance, and these players got back their investments, the money they spent for these loot boxes. But as I said, every loot box has to be looked at separately, and you cannot simply say loot boxes are games of chance. That would be completely wrong. Every game element, and we see a lot of gaming elements also embedded in esports titles, And when I look at my son playing, I get really angry because I know these mechanisms, and I can tell that some publishers introduce them to a very, very young audience to lower this level of perception so that it feels completely normal for them when they become 18 and start spending money, or they ask their grandmother if she can top up their whatever account. I think again here it's also up to the publishers themselves to self-regulate them, to be reasonable, and to stop doing these type of things, because if they push too hard, they will end up in this gaming and highly regulated area of games of chance.
Thank you. Gal, maybe I would ask you now, what are the current trends when it comes to esports and esports betting, as well as how can you ensure integrity in esports competition when we are actually betting on them?
All right. First of all, two very important questions, so I would touch each one of them separately. When it comes to trends, it's a very dynamic, and you heard a lot of things just from my colleague in the very, very beginning, but I would like to start with the very fundamental aspects that you all should be very much looking into. It's, of course, the trend of massive growth. If you look at research, they are varied to some extent, but the consensus is about the last 5 years, about an average of more than 80% compound annual growth in the last 5 years. This we should cross only for the betting on esport more than $2 billion USDs, and this for the foreseeing future should be maintaining or even increasing its growth. And as I said before, if you want to be part of this trend, you need to basically adjust yourself to this audience, okay? It will not come naturally or organically just by putting some esport events. I think that all of this is being fueled by several more global trends. We see big money and big names stepping in. You see, Saudi Arabia with Savi buying ESL and Face it more than a year ago, and now we're having one of the biggest tournaments. We see big names like Coca-Cola, Intel, Samsung sponsoring, advertising, putting a lot of money into this ecosystem. So that's, I think, very, very big trend, and you all should be asking yourself what we need to do better, to take a bigger part of that. That's, I think, the first. It also, I think that all of this, basically, what is derived from that is that the trust and the confidence of the average player in the betting ecosystem of esports is increasing. You see the big names, you see the big advertising, you associate this branded, trusted branded with the events that they are sponsoring. And I think that basically it is like a circle of support that will basically enable the whole system to grow. And I want to touch also a bit about integrity, which is absolutely important topic. And I think that esports definitely provides some new challenges to integrity. I would say first the obvious, integrity is an issue, okay? In every sport and in esports, there's no exceptions here. And I will also give what is my 2 cents how to be better address integrity in your ecosystem, in your betting sites. First of all, esports, on top of the regular bias of players to be bribed and to do some match fixing, esports introduce some new challenges starting from it's a software, so the ability to hack it, the ability to use some external tools to manipulate, to give you some assistance to get a better scoring. This is things that we see and we are aware of them, but it's becoming more and more marginal. I think that there are new standards. If you look at an organization like ESIC that is being involved, you look at Sportradar, like having their FDS system in order to track anomalies in gaming and betting. My advice is, if you're not expert in esport yet, always rely on the big names, on ESL, on Blast, on the tier 1 events. Always prefer events that the players are sitting together in a venue and compete against one another. You have some smaller events that the players are sitting in their homes. It's technically feasible, yeah? But when you're sitting in your home, there is less control. And by doing so, you're very much minimizing your exposure to any match fixing or any integrity issues.
Thank you. Chris, since we touched a little bit on the audience and marketing a little bit, like how can people maybe perceive esports as as a good bet, and they kind of forget the issues that the sports and esports have. What do you think, or how important is storytelling when it comes to esports betting in a marketing strategy and to engage a global audience?
Yeah, I think storytelling is key. I think narrative is what leads us. Narrative is what brings us in emotionally. And if you can, I mean, that's how you're going to sell your product, right? Or you sell your base or sell your platform. So absolutely important that you have a good narrative and a good story that emotionally connects with your audience. And I guess, you know, with this issue between esports customers and consumers, this crowd is different than the regular betting. I think you have to reach them where they are, right? And I think it's a younger audience. I think it's gamers, and gamers play games again for entertainment as well. And you have to create an entertaining narrative and a good user journey for them to go on.
And do you think AI can play a role in more immersive experiences, for example? And also, do you think we can create characters that better emulate the human behavior?
Yeah, I'm smiling from face to face, because cheek to cheek, sorry, face to face. I have one face. No, like that's what we're playing with at the moment, which is really exciting. Like I love the new technology and I love what we can do. Like with large language models, for example, we have some characters that we built big backstories for, and I'm a creative director. I come from the film industry originally, where we write stories and narratives and create personas, and you can feed these now into these large language models. On top of that, you can then state a place and a time. So if your character is behind in a match or is losing in a match, and you then decide to chat with this character through something we have called QBot, which is your resident quiz master, but also your chatbot. It's pretty advanced, but you can now talk to your character and say, hey, how are you feeling, how are you going? And depending on place and time, the score, the setting of the scene, plus the backstory, this character will then respond in a very unique way, right? And the access to models like ChatGPT and these open source, you now can have conversations with a digital character. Whether that's what a bettor wants to do or not is different. They probably just want to go in and win. But now you can actually ask your character, how do you feel about the game? How you feel you're going to win this? Of course, he's not going to give away whether he is or not, but he's going to help you, give you that probability and those stats that you otherwise would have to research yourself. So it's a new way of giving you these statistics to kind of help you with your gameplay and hopefully help you win. But yeah, so you can have more engagement and more emotional engagement.
Perfect. Thank you, Chris. Christian, when it comes to new entrants in the market, and maybe we have someone in the audience that is thinking of or about to enter the market, what advice would you give to someone that is about to enter the esports online betting market?
As I just said, in Austria, in regards of betting on esports, we have a high degree of legal certainty due to these various state betting laws, and you are free to choose. These are open licensing systems. If you fulfill all the criteria, you file an application, you can get a license. It's not a limited number. You don't have to wait for a tender. You can do that at every point in time you would like to. And there's even something that might be of even higher interest. There is a Supreme Court ruling that is quite recent. This was about Malta-based and licensed operator offering its betting products to Austria, and over 3 instances, one of the colleagues present in the audience was involved, and the Supreme Court then cited an article my firm published, so we were very proud when that happened. And at the end of the day, in this proceeding, the Supreme Court stated that it is perfectly legal to offer from Malta inbound to Austria if you do not have any physical presence there. So you would need to, first of all, make your mind if you want to be resident or have a physical presence in Austria, then we can find a solution. If you're based and licensed outside of Austria, there are ways to make it happen as well.
Okay, I'll extend this question to all of you. From your perspectives, which advice would you give to new entrants in the market in esports and online betting?
Yeah, if I can start, just looking at it from marketing perspective, let's say, for betting companies, I see in the past few years, I see 2 main directions, which one of them is sports betting operators that are just kind of waiting for it to happen. So they are focusing on football, traditional sports, and they are just saying, hey, esports for us, not a big thing for now. When it catches up, we'll give it the resources that it requires. But for now, we don't see any traction on that, and they do nothing for now. And then the second movement that I see is the operators that embrace it, then they invest in it, and they actually, for now, they have already captured the space. And the reason why the first group will, in my opinion, not succeed if they just wait, is that the esports betting customers will not come from their current customer base of like customers betting on football. They will not just decide one day, okay, I'm bored of football, I will place a bet on Dota 2. That will just not happen. It's a different customer base, so they have to come to them, they have to communicate with them, and they have to somehow attract them. And by now, honestly, the space is already really like quite engaged with big players. So if you look, I'll be traveling this weekend to Copenhagen. There's a biggest tournament in Counter-Strike that will happen this year. The 8 remaining teams, all of them, I think they have a main betting partner. The event itself has a betting partner. Those betting companies, they understand what they are doing, and they have a reason to do that because they see the return on the investment that they do into that. So my advice right now would be to act quickly and try to understand the space and understand how to talk to the new wave of customers, because those are people between 18 to 35 years old. They will be the customers for the next decades. So now is the time to talk to them, to understand them, because then you can work with them in the upcoming years. So that would be my advice.
Thank you. Gal, would you like to add something?
Yeah, very much agreeing with Andre. Maybe to add a couple of points here. If you're a new entrant into the market, and we talk about European market, which is highly saturated, highly competitive, you should look at esports as a disruptive event. Okay, something that can really bring you an edge over competition if you do the things right and do the things weak. You talk about sponsoring teams. Sponsoring esports teams is still way, way cheaper than sponsoring teams in the Premier League or in the Bundesliga. So there is an opportunity with relatively smaller investments, with focusing to this target audience from the whole life cycle of the player, from acquiring attention, engaging, to do the things right for these players, from the user experience, from the player journey. And you can, use this destructive event to build yourself into this competitive landscape.
Thank you. Chris, would you like to add something to it? No? Cool. So I'll stay with Gal then. Do you envision, there are already, but collaborations between esports platforms and betting companies, do you envision them evolving? And also, what frameworks and models could ensure that those collaborations are beneficial for both? And we can touch a bit on the integrity side. We mentioned it before, but between platforms and betting companies, there's always that question as well. How do you envision this evolving?
Yeah, let's start. I always would like to start with numbers, because this is what it's all about business at the end of the day, at least. And I think Richard mentioned before, about 30% of the betting on football is FIFA. Okay, and we see some very strong double-digit numbers in our customers base as well. FIFA, you have it 24/7, like the horse racing you mentioned. So if you want to bet now, for example, in football, you either have some Vietnamese leagues or Cambodia leagues, or you play FIFA for European players that you're getting for and you are engaged. Also, all of these FIFA games and other games in this category are what we call fast betting. So the duration before you put a bet, place a bet, until you settle can be a matter of minutes. You don't need to wait for 90 minutes until the game ends. You can bet in very fast gaming, very fast events that you can bet on. So it's also very engaging and very strong. So this is definitely something you should be familiar with the money potential, the revenue potential of engaging such content into your ecosystem. And again, don't look at your current provider, whatever it is, BetGenius, Sport Radar, or one of these big names, and just subscribe to some events from their list and add it to your existing ecosystem. That will not work, or not work good enough compared to the potential. I will not disclose our customers' information, but some of them in the global sport betting turnover and GGR, their portion of eSport becoming now significant double-digit percentage. Okay, so there is a lot of potential around it if you do the integration properly.
Thank you. Chris, you said that we were smiling face to face before when I mentioned AI. Now, yeah, cheek to cheek. What about blockchain? And how do you think that can enhance user engagement and trust on esports betting? And how do you address the concerns regarding the environmental impact of blockchain technologies as well?
Okay, I'll start with the last one. I think the environmental impact, well, there's a reason why it's been stigmatized as well. I mean, it was early technology, and in the early days it was heavy processing, but now, I mean, since 2022, I mean, it's pretty much carbon neutral when you use like layer 2 solutions like Polygon. And I also think blockchain is probably the solution for a lot of our environmental problems if you look at supply chains and stuff like that. So I think there's a stigma thrown at it for reasons, political reasons as well. But as blockchain is maturing, as we're seeing now, it's actually going to help us solve a lot more of these problems than cause harm. And the first question
was about blockchain.
Yeah, blockchain and gaming. Yeah, well, that's the emotional attachment. Like, there's more rewards for players and users, right? Now you can use these tokens to actually digitize it, whether it's a ticketing system that's automated. You have an asset in a game, and if you do it with a sponsorship, like for example, with Zed Run, we partnered with Budweiser, we partnered with NASCAR, we partnered with Atari, and not only did these people own horses and get these special skins that they could put on their horses, much like Fortnite, but these skins also were tokens to go to real world events and gave them access to merchandise and other things. I mean, these are early experiments, but we saw a lot of good data from that and a lot of uptake. And it's about, getting it right. There's a huge opportunity there for brands coming together with betting providers to actually give more back to their users and create stronger communities around their products.
All right, thank you, Chris. We are in our final 5 to 6 minutes, so let's take the crystal ball out a little bit and try to understand what are our thoughts in future trends and predictions for that will dominate esports and online gaming as well in the bet industries in the next 5 to 10 years, especially in Europe, because this panel would be in Europe and beyond. Maybe I'll start here with you, Christian. What do you predict for next 5 to 10 years within these two industries?
Yeah, as we understood before, and also on this panel, there's a strong connection between gambling and esports and betting and esports. This will be regulated for sure. You can expect that. That's quite sure. That's what, and I get back to what I said before. Publishers and operators would be clever if they take a proactive approach and limit themselves, give themselves maybe a code of conduct, and don't play like the Wild Wild West and exploit it to the maximum now, because then the regulation afterwards will become harsher and harsher if they exaggerate at this earlier stage. And what I also see is that there will be the necessity to develop esports specific platforms and offerings, because as we already heard, the current betting offering does not reach the esports enthusiasts. And we've also seen very, very practical problems of betting operators, that they simply, one bookie can overlook up to 5 football games. If you look at, for instance, I don't know, League of Legends, Dota, whatsoever, you need real expert bookies that are familiar with this game, and then they stick to this one game. They cannot, like, it's simply a human resource issue that the big bookmakers have, that they don't have the staff to overlook and to control and these events.
Thank you. Yeah, Andre.
Yeah, I'll continue. No, I definitely agree with this. The issue of human resources when creating an esports product is definitely a real thing. Many of the sports books, like, they have established resources for football and everything, but with esports, again, you cannot move trader from football to esports and just trade esports. That doesn't work. Then it makes sense to go to someone who has it already centralized, like Gal, and you use the services because they are the experts. They put the people who know the games and work with them. And as for some sort of prediction for the next years, I think there will be a sort of second wave of esports betting in Europe, because I feel like in the first years Europe was quite progressive on that topic, but still you have countries like, actually if you look at the biggest markets like Germany, France and Italy. Germany, there is no esports betting today. France, there is no esports betting, and Italy, it's limited to non-violent games, which limits the scopes quite a bit. So still these huge markets are left to be open. So I think there's a big gap that can be filled in the next years. And I think it will be forced by the other markets, not only catching up, but being faster. So if you look at Asia today, I have worked with bookmakers that did sponsorship deals in esports, and it was the biggest deals they did ever. Not over football, over everything. So their biggest sponsorship deals were in esports because they understood the importance for them. Obviously, the region itself has a certain favorism towards esports, but they understand it. So I think in order to not lose customers to that region, Europe will be forced to catch up again and have a sort of second wave coming up.
Yeah, thank you. Gal?
Well, just to add on top of my colleagues, and I feel very uncomfortable to talk about 5 to 10 years, because in our industry, it's like I categorize it as science fiction.
Months.
Yeah. But if I look at the short midterm, first I clearly see like an increased level of acceptance of esports into the mainstream that we talked about it. I think that this will continue. I also see more and more convergence between esport and traditional sports. For example, if you saw the last All-Star NBA game, which was a horrible game, by the way, but it was accompanied by the very exciting esport tournament, or Formula One that have these esport tournaments in parallel, or football teams that have their esport teams. So this will help to bring more audience, increase the trust, and I think that's eventually all of this acceptance, mainstream, trust, will increase the portion of esports in the overall turnover of the sport betting industry.
Thank you. Chris, would you like to?
Yeah, just adding to the colleagues as well, is more digital mirroring of the real world. Again, using these technologies, extending seasons beyond having real world AI, like real world digital players play like the real world players, right? Living, breathing digital avatars and athletes that you can then bet on. And also, I guess my question is, when is esports becoming an Olympic sport, right? Like, I see that happening at some point. I don't know when. I'd like to listen to this. Yeah,
You already have
is it
several, yeah.
Okay, because breakdancing is just coming into parents, and we got BMX or skateboarding last one.
Yeah, it's they chose quite bizarre disciplines for this Olympic, but it's a starting point. Yeah, yeah.
Perfect. Okay, well then that came true.
Okay.
So I don't have to think about it.
Is it coming this year to the Olympics, esport?
So which games?
I don't remember the list, but
Tennis, clash, and mostly
arching.
no one is playing this game.
Yes.
Okay, so games that aren't being played. Yeah.
Very bizarre selection, but it's a starting point. At least it's starting now.
Pay to win, that's really bad.
Okay, well it's a start, and then yeah. Well, that excites me. So because then my son has a future. He's going to be a future Olympian, I'm sure.
You're going to have an Olympic medal at home. Guys, do you have any questions? We're about to close the panel. We have 1 minute. Any questions from the audience? Yep.
Do you envision that you will tackle the results integrity very soon while the adoption of the e-sports betting is still on the rise? Because integrity in football is basically established in the last 10 years, 15 years, and we had during COVID that famous tournament played, I know, Ukraine, Russia, which was basically a fake tournament, and across the whole Europe, organizers even paid out the winnings based on the fake notes of the results. So I assume this will happen. Not on the biggest tournaments, of course. Counter-Strike's biggest tournament is widely watched by 10, 20 million people, but when you extend the offering, you will have like local tournaments. And in there, how to keep the integrity of results.
Yeah, I think maybe I can take it a little bit, because that was my work for the past years. There is already a system happening and getting implemented between esports organizers and the sports betting companies. And that is basically, since it's a software, you can actually track everything that's happening in the game. And if you have it set up properly, that means the tournament itself is connected right to the odds creators and data distributors. You can see everything that is happening in the games live, and all the sports books can see it. and everyone has the data points and they can see everything that is happening in the game. But of course, that has to be set up. So once you have like small tournaments with, I don't know, 3,000 euro prize pool that are happening somewhere, no one is connected to it, no one can verify it, then that's a risk, and that's something that the sportsbook should actively avoid, and work only with the bigger ones or with the ones that have the system in place. Then they can be sure that, okay, what is happening in the game is actually happening there. We know the players are playing, this is the result, and we can verify it.
Can you maybe just add to this, because I fully align with that, but looking at the numbers that I'm exposed to, it's very marginal. If you're looking at big tournaments, it's very unlikely to happen because of the nature of the tournament, the way it's being tracked and organized. Small tournaments, yes, more probability, but by definition, betting companies will put a cap on how much you can bet on small tournaments. So the turnover and the amount you can, as a match fixer, you can get from that is also very minimal. It's removed all the incentive to do some massive thing against betting, and it will improve. Technology, we have a system that collects data in real time from different betting operators, consolidating, looking for some anomalies in patterns analysis. So it's already marginal, and it's going to get even better.
Thank you. Any further questions to the panelists? Nope. Of course.
Because you were mentioning betting on esports, and there's been already sponsorships with teams. I think what you did not mention, or maybe I was not here at the beginning, it is very difficult working with tournament organizers, and because we always have to consider the IP holders. Because I think you're probably referring to Counter-Strike, which is, well, is quite open. But do you see any improvements in this field, considering because the IP holders are very strict on this? They do not want their product is related to
Yeah, there are currently right now two approaches. One is, as you said, Counter-Strike, Dota, where the game publisher Valve is kind of laid back, and they don't really, like they oversee it, but they don't really actively give their inputs on it. And then you have like betting companies doing the sponsorships very actively. And then you have other publishers like Riot Games, where they very actively oversee the whole ecosystem, and you don't have betting sponsors as of today. But they are definitely watching the space. It's just they are more conservative, and they want to be sure that when they do it, it's done right. So it's just slower process. They are definitely watching it, and they are definitely evaluating, okay, are we ready? Is the ecosystem healthy enough to enable betting sponsorships? So these are the two approaches, and every game publisher has to choose. I think in the end, once, let's say the big ones are like Riot Games, say, okay, we are fine with it, it can work, then the other ones will follow them, and everyone will be quite okay.
Thank you, Urim, for your question. Urim is going to be on the next panel as well. We are going to have a break now of about 15 minutes. So, have a coffee, eat something, have some water. We'll be back here with 4 new panelists and to keep on discussing esports. Thank you very much.